In this video, we're considering discussing the congregation Bible study for this week. We're starting the section number 6, and this is about when the Israelites finally reached the promised land. The tabernacle became a center of true worship there. Priests taught the law. The judges guided the nation, included some women, and this section illustrates the profound impact that a person's decisions and actions can have on others. Each Israelite had a personal responsibility toward Jehovah and his fellow men, highlight the influence that Deborah, Naomi, Joshua, Hannah, Jephthah's daughter, and Samuel had on their communities, emphasize that even some non-Israelites such as Rahab, Ruth, Jael, and the Gibeonites decided to side with the Israelites because they knew that Jehovah was with them. And a remarkable example of Samson. Okay, friends, let's start now with these key lessons. Jehovah used the judges to save his people miraculously. Faithful ones, young and old, were rewarded for their complete confidence in Jehovah. And God is not partial. He accepts people from every nation and background who love him and go to do what is right according to his will. Lesson 29 is entitled Jehovah chose Joshua. And after leading the nation of Israel for many years, actually 40 years, Moses was near to end his life. He was 20 years old, 120 years old at that time. So he was 40 years when he left Egypt. Then he was living in the wilderness during 40 years with Jethro, his father-in-law. And then at the age of 80 years old, Jehovah chose him to be the leader of the nation of Israel. And he was doing this function, this role during 40 years. And Jehovah told Moses, "You're not the one who'd bring the Israelites into the promised land, but I let you see the land." There is an explanation about why this decision, and Moses then asked Jehovah to choose a new leader to take care of the people, and Jehovah said to him, "Go to Joshua and tell him that he is the one." Very important, because Jehovah didn't leave his people alone by their own. Jehovah was observing and was choosing the next leader of the nation. He was not a replace of Moses. He was not a second Moses. He was Joshua with a different personality, a different background, but he has Jehovah's blessing. And Moses told the nation that he would die soon and that Jehovah had chosen Joshua as the one to lead them into the promised land. And this reminds us the story of the organization during the beginning. Brother Russell, he was taking the lead, but in a certain moment he died, and Brother Rutherford was continuing the leadership of the organization, and then Brother Knorr, and then the governing body. And during many decades and years, the governing body has been taking the lead of the organization. And Moses said to Joshua, "Don't be afraid, Jehovah will help you." Soon after that, Moses went to the top of Mount Nebo. When we read these accounts, we notice they had this custom of going to the top of some mountains, and they had a direct communication with Jehovah. They received some messages from Jehovah on the top of certain mountains. And Moses said to Joshua, "Don't be afraid, Jehovah will help you." And soon after that, Moses was there, and Jehovah showed him the land that he had promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses was 20 years old when he died. So 3 remarkable periods of life: 40 years in Egypt, 40 years like a shepherd in the wilderness, and Then 40 years with the Israelites taking the lead. And Jehovah told Joshua, and this is very remarkable and significant because Jehovah was having this communication with Joshua. Cross the Jordan River, the same river where Jesus was baptized, and go into Canaan. I'll help you just as I helped Moses. Make sure that you read my law every day. Don't be afraid. Be brave. Go and do what I have commanded you to do. And that's exactly what he did, because he was studying the law. He was reading the law during the day, during the night, during the morning. And that's the key. Of course, he was not reading the law in the English language or any other language, but in the original language, the Hebrew. And Joshua sent 2 spies to the city of Jericho. In the next story, we learn about what happened there. When they returned, they reported that it was a good time to go into Canaan. The next day, Joshua told the nation to pack up the camp. Then he sent the priests who were carrying the Ark of the Covenant on ahead to the Jordan River. And a miracle was about to happen because the river was flooding. And as soon as the feet of the priest touched the water, the river stopped flowing and the water drained away. That's the miracle. And the priest walked to the middle of the riverbed and stood there while the whole nation of Israel crossed to the other side. Do you think this miracle reminded them of what Jehovah had done at the Red Sea? Probably. Definitely. Finally, after all those years, the Israelites were in the Promised Land. They could build houses and cities. They could plant fields, vineyards, and orchards. It was a land flowing with milk and honey. It's very remarkable how Jehovah didn't leave his people by their own. He was doing the arrangement to the next leader of the nation. At the same time, we learn about Jehovah's loyalty. He had promised them the promised land, and he kept his word. He kept his promise, and they watch the fulfilling of this promise with their own eyes. Jehovah feels us. He understands our situation, and that's why he's reminding us, don't be afraid. He's with us. Very important. And at the same time, he's encouraging us to keep studying his word, the Bible, daily. During the day, during the night, in other words, we must meditate on his word as Joshua did. And that's very essential and important to keep doing. Jehovah is immutable. He was able to perform the miracle at the Red Sea and now at the Jordan River. And we understand that during the Great Tribulation, we observe different miracles where Jehovah is going to be protecting his people from their enemies. In other words, during the Great Tribulation, we won't see just spiritual protection, but physical protection. One of the best personal habits we could have, is the Bible reading. Some families, they read the Bible daily or weekly, and it's a very important custom and habit we could have, Bible reading. And when in the congregation is announced a new appointment, we must support them and having good cooperation with the new appointments, like elders, servants, and now we've been listening about some appointments in the governing body some time ago. So our support and cooperation is very essential and important during these transitions. Another lesson we learned, no one is irreplaceable in the congregation. That's why the organization has been encouraging us to train others. The elders must be training the servants and, of course, observing the potential of the young ones. Very important and essential. Okay, friends, through this lesson we discuss who led the Israelites after Moses died and what happened at the Jordan River, and some practical lessons we learned from this account. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day and be able to attend your midweek meeting. And thank you so much for watching and hope to see you in our next video.